Solves this is the first time. This is not an invitational. Yeah. People weren't invited to be here. You earned it. From opens to championships, that $1 million is yours to claim.
Let's get this done as we have 3 days for our first weekend here, of course. 2 million base prize pool is on the line, of course, as everybody at home can also be contributing as things go on. We're going to be starting with the group stage, going to semis, and then the grand final, as we mentioned, in Oakland later on, Avenger. And this tournament format, the structure of it and everything like that, every stage is a short burst, but it really, really matters moving on.
And we've been talking through it, like through the regions, through the stages.
Yeah.
You have to prepare for this. You might have a long phase to come to here, but you have to be able to prove it with 6 games. I love the double elimination system we have here as well. It's very lovely.
I really like it because you need to adapt and you need to be quick. You don't know who's your next enemy is going to be. There's going to be a lot of teams you're going to be facing here.
And of course, a point system here as well. If you are unfamiliar with it as a whole, or you might be familiar with it through the entire year because we've been using the same one, but if you are unfamiliar, it's 10 points for that first place. It teeters on down from there, 1 point per kill, and we've seen throughout this year that kills mean a lot of points.
Kills have been the difference maker, the tiebreaker more often than not. Interestingly enough, kills came into play at the end of the NPL season. But we have 6 guys from the North America. If you guys see that numbers of distribution up there, that's because the Rumblers got that late invite due to some issues with some visas and other places. And I think that's a big boon for North America, that we have a little more of a chance of sort of moving through to that late stage.
And our 32 teams are being separated up into 2 groups to get the things going here for the first weekend as a whole. Group 1 is, as this stands, a big, fearsome group. We all looked at this at the very start and we're like, wow, that might actually be the group of death here. I looked on further inspection, I'm like, actually, both groups are really damn good. But we have 6 games per day for us here, starting with Erangel and moving on from there.
Yeah, I mean, you have 3 games of Erangel, and that means you got to take that opportunity. When you're on Erangel, you got most games there, make sure that's...
Rise to the top and excel. But here we go, guys. You can see the countdown is kicking off. Plane is up and in the air, so here we go. The first game of PGC is getting underway.
32 teams, 9 regions, 8 days, $2 million. And the chance to be crowned a global championship team. This is it. We are beginning. And of course, we get all the excitement, Matchroom. This is where we see initially if we're going to get any contested spots. Will people be greedy? Will people be ignorant? Will people want to fight and try and farm early game? Well, it's time to find out.
Well, there is a good chance of it. There are a lot of very strong locations on this map.
Pio is disconnected, so he needs to make sure that if he has to get this kill, really. I mean, look at the aggression here.
That's just Pio things.
Oh my God, if he gets this.
Well, so much damage coming out. Got to be cautious off of that one. That is some confidence coming out from Pio. He does not even care off of that. He was just standing out in the open, taking the shots back that direction. So smoke's coming out on both sides. See, Envy's taking a lot of damage coming out. Tempo Storm as well. They're fighting across this hillside, but Gex is also looking on the backside of it. Pat Cups is trying to look along the side of this, but he's also right up next to Tempo Storm. Grenade's going to come out, trying to go around the peak of this. And Luke's going to come back on the other side of this, try to go for the res. A little bit more space, but it's still Pat Caps just jumping from smoke to smoke, trying to use the crates for cover. Any box that he can find, but it's going to be Gex to take the shots off the side of him. That's going to eliminate Envy.
North America just currently battering one another. Miluk with the Uzi at least can get Sharp shot back on his feet. How much more he can do. If he can pick up Zampa, it would be huge. But the problem is he has to go out into the open. There are teams lingering and looking across from that side. Pio does get the knock-ons to Bestelotch, the player that was up against the water. That's a damn good shot to challenge someone like Bestelotch, who is a very aggressive individual. Circle comes the way that we kind of expected to. The most land will fit in this one. And that's why all the teams are going to be posting up here. G2, Vendetta, Red Canids, Ghost Gaming, Armory, everyone's almost inside this. The mess is going to come from the side of Severny. Navi, Genji, Gex, Tempo, Storm, VC, they all have to make their way in, and we've got 3 teams that are basically playing bodyguard on the western side.
One thing I want to mention is the number of teams that are presently inside the circle are a lot of the same teams we saw get in those last circles. Correct. Faze, Vendetta, Ghost Gaming, Armory Gaming, they're not one of them that made it that far in, but we can see Red Canids is off to the one side of it. So G2 is also making their approach, so we're starting to see repeat people that know how to play these circles, figuring out how to come back in with a lot of people up and alive. Duckman's looking back over towards Ghost. Ghost making the push down. Looks like they've already got Skeet down. Duckman's back off on that side angle for it, and it looks like everybody's hunting for him, but VC just down to the south of Ghost. This is kind of an interesting spot right over here next to Stallberg. A lot of back and forth. Esther is right up inside the smoke, and it's right next to Navi. Pokemalda is looking off the side, gonna go ahead and throw down a Molotov. Esther gets away from that.
Pio's killed 2 of them. I mean, I'd be scared if I were Navi. This isn't like to let one player just loose on them like this. Pokemalda might unfortunately burn himself if he's not too careful. Very little life. That's for standing on top of him. Pio's here for the resuscitation, just trying to... Oh,
here's the drive up.
Go for what do you do?
Does get taken down, tries to get something out of it, but Gen G now up to 7 kills. Looking back over towards a doozy. He's kind of hiding out. Last member alive for Na'Vi. They only have 1 kill at this point. So he's got himself a little bit of a ridge to play from, but it is not inside the safe zone. Absolutely
no EU bias here. It really scares me, Matchroom, watching a team like Na'Vi being bullied. Quite literally bullied by Gen G. That's... You got to think they were down 2 players earlier on when they were going up against the infantry. They got themselves back on their feet. They wiped out infantry, and now they're just moving on to the Russians. They are destroying them.
Got Ghost on the high ground and trying to abuse it. DJ Boy down, and yeah, and that's kind of the name of this lobby right now. Is everybody can abuse anyone at any given time. It's all about making sure you got to dictate the game. You got to force everybody to play around how you want to play. Damon just jumps down right on top of Gex, taking a couple of shots back over to him, but it's going to be a doozy that gets the shots and the down onto him. So Gen G is eliminated on. That's interesting.
I actually think Pio just got Car 98 off the back of the vehicle. Yeah. I saw it in the kill feed.
Doozy outlives him. He's got the moral victory, but now where do you go next?
Amory Gaming, 11th position. We're seeing some of the old teams, as you did mention, Matchroom, in the previous match, falling at the wayside here below top 10. A doozy just holding on for dear life on the beachhead, and it will be very soon lived because he has only got a very amount of the stim on and needs to turn face.
Faze is looking back down towards T1 right now. They're going to hear the motorcycle in a second, but that might give him that extra little bit of space. And up, he's going to get dropped off by nice shots coming out from Sophia. So, no, never mind. I guess Faze doesn't have to look that direction. They already got people supporting him from the other side.
Enters just chilling, waiting for Gex to make an advancement over the hill here because they do have to come forward given the position of the blue. But unfortunately, RJ is in the hillside, so they can get the angle also. But McCoy... He's kind of having a beautiful few little games so far. I'm seeing plenty of kills and frags come out the man. Does knock one of them on the back, so it kind of gives a bit of a stopgap here for Gex, who will be moving forward.
New circle pops, just moves a little bit more centralized. Faze still has those buildings to play around. Ace is just huddled back down in this dip, trying to deny vision off of so many angles. It's like Gex is trying to make a little bit more of an aggressive push, but there's so many teams that can see back on this angle. You can see it's just tracers coming in from every angle right now. Leo's trying to get something out of this, but there's just hellfire and bullets on every angle for it, while Joy is just looking back up that hillside. Every time they peek down, it is so dangerous.
Just so you're aware of where teams are currently, Red Canadians is holding down on the plateau towards the south side of the main houses. Vendetta are going to be lingering around them, though. G2 coming out of the forest to where we see Faze usually rotate from on that eastern side. T1 is making an advancement outside of the gas station onto Entus. Gex falling by the wayside. RG also want to get involved in this one. The grenades could do some damage, and if it does, it'll ring the alarm bell, Matchroom, and they'll maybe just hope and pray that they're ready for the receiving end of it.
But that is going to distract away from what was going on with Ace. They were looking back down on that angle. Doesn't really matter. I was going to say maybe that might give Gex a chance to make the way down, but Faze is still just taking those shots onto this. Everybody from T1 has to be cautious. Jeff, as he made that approach, had to make sure he was keeping an eye out for Faze. Faze is dictating so much of the movement inside of the circle based off of the sight lines that they have. Nobody is within 200 meters of them right now because anytime somebody tries to make the approach, somebody's got that angle on them.
I think the bigger problem is Red Canid's hiding. There's like a plateau on the main road, and they should have vehicles there, I would have thought as well, so no one dare go further afield, more centralized. Because if you do, they're going to kill you. It's as simple as that. Vendetta is right next to them, so like the main road is straight up a no-go zone. You have to play a plateau of a hillside here. Hopefully, Ghost Gaming can play a bit more reactive to the situation that they're in, because I'm seeing RJ surround them from multiple angles.
everybody's loaded up inside of the UAZ. T1 has the angles off on one side. It is just dead body dropping out of this over and over. Jumps out, and it's going to be T1 holding this down. And that's going to be Ace, our winners from last round, getting aced themselves and removed from the game.
At least they made it into top A and picked up some frags along the way. There are teams that have had worse runs than that, so it's not too bad. You get the old curse of winning one and going out in 16th.
So with this, you can see we're in the points positions right now. 7 teams alive, 20 still holding it down. Look at the control Faze has over the circle. The only problem with it is they're so far towards the edge of it. If anything moves away from this position, it's going to be very difficult because now they have to cross those zones of demarcation that they themselves have set.
But this is why it's so important to get the knocks now with the
100%.
height advantage on top of the buildings that was provided. There's also what I would call a level 3 building up there when you can go into the high tower and look across. If they can get knocks on these positions, you remove them.
Ooh.
And with good reason, because now Faze, it's time to move. You've been gifted a very good circle for a very good game. Now it's time to test them. What have they got left in the chamber? Teams will be lingering on that main road. And unless they go for a wide rotation, the safer option will be to take the forest side.
Yeah, this is a very interesting rotation point you have to go through. There is G2 that's along the hillside, as well as Vendetta. Red Canid still holding down that 1 point. You can see the spread coming out now as Ghost is still controlling back down towards the southeast, and Rascal Jester's just kind of separated out around as well. There's only 3 teams that are kind of in the circle. I would technically 2, because Ghost is right on the edge of the circle and keep bouncing back and forth between it, but all the violence is going to be happening up towards the north as G2 has to figure out how they're going to move through this, and Vendetta is just waiting. This looks like a trap just being sprung at any given moment.
Faze are going to go for that plateau that I've been talking about.
Just full send. You can see they hopped inside the vehicle. They're making the push over towards it, and a crate.
That knock's huge. Okay, it was stolen. Let's not talk about that. It was stolen regardless, but that's huge because that knocks Chris out from watching the back angle. Faze can make something on this one and push in now. The problem was getting in there in the way of G2. There are 3 teams over here. This is going to be madness.
G2 is under a lot of pressure right now. Grenades are starting to come down. It's just drop after drop. As you can see, Red Canid's also joining in the fight. G2 just walked into a meat grinder as 3 different teams are just tearing them apart from so many different angles. Nellis is trying to figure out, okay, what do I get out of this? They've only got 1 kill. Trying to hunt down another. Goes for the spray back over towards it and cannot accomplish anything. They just get dropped out.
G2's gone. Vendetta, they're down but not out. They can get their bodies back on their feet if they need to. Uber has managed to pick up a crate. I mean, Christ, if he wasn't strong enough as it was, give him level 3 gear and watch him go. Let's see what other gun he's got once it eventually shows up on screen. He might not even go for it, just honestly keep the mini at this point because he's so damn good with it. Yes, he does indeed. M4 in the back pocket as well to take on the assault that will be waiting. And when I say waiting, I mean lying down. Nades cooked.
Coming out, but the spray is very good. Gets a little bit of damage off. T1 hops out. They opted to go back down towards the south. But look at this. Shinobi just has the angle. He is the thorn in so many team sides right now. That's going to be a couple more kills coming out. But you can see Faze just walks up and says, Red Canids, this is our part of the circle. You just go away.
They've pushed all the teams that were here completely out. Yes, third party, fourth party was a real thing. But they've still stepped up at the right time and taken so many angles to cover so many different positions. They've essentially removed an obstacle completely from the wayside. I spoke about Ghost Gaming earlier on in the position of maybe getting overrun. They did lose 1 player during the time of what we've just seen in the past circle. Vendetta, they lost 1 player also, but they are squeezed up against the edge, so you would expect them to have to move soon. For RJ, it's a big old split, and one of the players just been knocked all the way against the white, all against the blue. The white does not favor them. In fact, the white only favors 1 team. I'm hearing G-Core somewhere in the distance ringing aloud.
So with this, Faze has so much control to work around. There's a couple of little dips, rocks that they can make use of. But now it's just going to be trying to gatekeep teams out, maybe try to force them to fight each other, depending on how these teams move. There's a lot of them back over towards the east. You can see Vendetta, Ghost looking back on that angle. Rascal Jester still spread out back down across the south, but there's not a lot of good places to play around inside of the circle. So a lot of these teams could be vying for that spot that they think could win them the game based off of how do we fight Faze's position, and that's going to force them right next to each other. Ghost trying to get some shots back over towards Vendetta, does get 1 of them down. McCoy jumps away from the grenade, still just bouncing around through them. Look at this. This is very brave, just walking through where the grenade lines are falling, trying to get that better spot. Critical motion, moving over towards the rock, trying to see if maybe that high ground might buy him a little bit more sight line towards somebody's head. But McCoy playing this very aggressive, has to be cautious. Rascal Jester is wanting to be a part of this. McCoy does duck back behind the tree. Drassel's back behind him, trying to get into a position to provide a little bit more cover, but Critical Motion has such a beautiful angle here.
All these shots, though, are giving away position, and I'm seeing Moshamaru slowly creep up this hillside. I actually like the aggression here from Ghost Gaming. Just get stuck in. What do you got to lose? You've got nothing to lose.
8 kills in 4th place. So with this, grenades coming out. Critical Motion now in some trouble. Shots gonna come out, and now it's gonna be a lot of damage going through. Ghost gets dropped off of that very, very quickly, and Vendetta takes a lot of damage as well as they get eliminated off this. So FaZe Clan now looking back over towards Rascal Jester. We saw Shinobi have a hell of an end game, not last game, but can he pull off the chance to do more damage to one of these teams? Because there's just the 2 of them looking back up against a full 4-man FaZe.
Not a single knock across this in rostered so far. It's going to be a clean win if they do get it. They're going to go for the 4-man sweep. 2 left back, 2 on the forward, split side by side, watching for the snakes. But with how open this area is, there's a couple of rocks and trees you can play off of, but apart from that, it is just barren. It's open field.
7 kills in FaZe, walking away with an early game victory could be a big moral blow to a lot of these teams. New circle pops, no surprise at this point, going to favor FaZe. They're running a beautiful split across this, just trying to get as much control as possible. Rascal Jester has to find some way to approach this, and there's not a lot of clean sight lines to really play around, so they're opting to move back along those hillsides. That's going to be Shinobi getting spotted out, damage coming through, he gets dropped. Now it is down to just 1. A long throw comes out, trying to connect with that. Roshimaru does manage to get one of them down, but that's just a spin back over from FaZe, and so our round 2 winner is going to be FaZe Clan.
That's a lot of points for FaZe Clan. That's a win as well. I mean, all you are doing is feeding the beast, feeding the engine, giving them the frags, giving them the points, and of course giving them the win. It was fairly straightforward for them. There's no doubt in saying that whatsoever. Regardless of where the circle was, they had the good compound, and it was just slow, it was clean, it was methodical. Removing teams from power play positions and just moving in. Clean sweep. To be fair, Match2, there's nothing else really can be said about it.
Towards the beginning, they got circle favor, but